A 17-year-old girl was held captive for 44 days in a house where adults knew she was at. Neighbors heard noises, parents knew, people suspected that something was wrong, yet nobody stopped it. What happened to her became one of the most horrifying crimes in Japan's history, not just because of what was done to her, but because of how many people could have saved her and didn't. This is the case of Junko Furuta. Before we begin, I want to give a quick disclaimer that this case involves kidnapping, prolonged abuse, torture, and even the death of a minor. I will not describe every graphic detail, but the events themselves are extremely disturbing. If topics like this are uncomfortable for you, I recommend clicking off and coming back for another case. With that being said, let's begin. I also want to mention that this case is so graphic and disturbing that I had to tone down certain details so that this video can remain respectful and platform safe. If you want to understand the full extent of what happened, I strongly encourage you to do your own research after this video. The reality of this case is even more horrifying than what I'm able to describe here. Junko was 17 years old in 1988. She was kind, polite, hardworking, and was even known as a good student. She worked part-time after school, and she had plans for her future. And every time I read this part, it hurts because she was just a normal teenager living a normal life. But on November 25th, she was riding her bike home in Misato when a teenage boy kicked her off her bike. Moments later, another boy approached her and pretended to help. That rescue was actually a trap. She was threatened and told if she didn't cooperate, her family would be harmed. Terrified, she went with them to a house in Tokyo that belonged to one of the boy's parents. That was where her 44 days of hell began. Towards the end of her captivity, it is estimated that nearly 100 people knew she was there. Some came and went freely from the house. The parents later claimed that they were too scared of their own son to intervene. But they heard everything. This is the part of the case that stays with me the most. Not just the violent, but the silence. On day 44, on January 4th of 1989, after losing a game, the boys took their anger out on Junko for nearly 2 hours. And sadly, she did not survive. And it's horrifying to think that after 44 days of suffering, that this is how it ended. Her body was placed in a duffel bag. It was sealed inside of a 55-gallon drum filled with concrete, and then it was dumped at a construction site. Now, this is part of the video where I tell you a little bit about the perpetrators. The people involved in this were not adults, they were teenage boys. But what they did, it was calculated, it was carried out for over 44 days without remorse. One of them orchestrated the kidnapping and used threats to control Junko and the others. The house that she was held in belonged to another boy's parents who lived downstairs the entire time. During interrogation, one of them admitted he had intended to kill her from the very beginning, and another described the violence as entertaining. And reading these statements makes my stomach turn because it shows there was no guilt and no empathy. Because they were juveniles and underage, their identities were protected from the public. But public outrage was so intense that a Japanese magazine illegally published their names, arguing that people capable of such crimes did not deserve empathy. They received sentences between 5 to 20 years, and after release, several were arrested again for violent crimes. But even knowing all of this, the names people remember were not theirs, and Japan remembers the name Junko. And this brings us to the end of today's case. I know this video may feel shorter than you expected, and there were many details I chose not to include because they were just simply too graphic and too disturbing for this platform. If you'd like me to go deeper into cases like this in the future, let me know in the comments. I'm going to read every single one, and your feedback will help me decide how detailed to make my videos in the future. If you want to understand just how horrifying this case truly was, I encourage you to do your own research after this video. Thank you for sitting through this with me today. If you enjoy true crime storytelling like this, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so that you don't miss the next case. And don't forget to turn on your post notifications because I post cases like these every single day. So I'll see you in the next one, and until next time, goodbye.